Good afternoon, good evening, good night, good morning, wherever you are. It's Abs of October Red, and we're back in the alternative corner. I know I haven't done one of these for a bit. Been distracted, a lot's been going on, etc., etc., as life does. But I felt triggered to do this episode today because I wanted to call out some of the hypocrisy that we're seeing that's going on at the moment. And I can't help but take accountability to talk about the hypocrisy within myself as well. Because one of them things I like to reflect and to look within myself to say, well, actually, why did you focus on this when you really should have been focusing on that? So this is going to cover some of that, but we're going to go back to one of the cases that I covered from the beginning. And it's an interesting case for me, and it was the Noel Clarke civil case, because I was interested in him as an actor, a fan of his work, and I was trying to cut holes and make you guys understand the legal, albeit civil, kind of entanglement that he was locked into. Opened up the case bit by bit, got you to look at the potential evidence and the fact that, albeit the evidence was compelling, and we never want to discredit when a victim's a victim. Lord knows I know what that's like. But we also have to point towards the evidence that was available, and sometimes it seems as if it was a bit one-sided, and that when Noel Clarke came with his own evidence, it was often not believed, talked down, dismissed, when you're looking at the balance of how both sides of the evidence was put together. So it's reared its head again, and I think it's for 2007. I think he got arrested yesterday, so it's a Noel Clarke, that is. He got arrested, not from his home address. I think they must have contacted him and told him to come in by appointment. So I don't know if that's an arrest by appointment or a voluntary interview. I don't know how that works there, because obviously they don't deem him as enough as a threat to say they've got to go and take his door off or whatever, or bring him out in cuffs or whatever it is. So they've phoned him and said, listen, by this, obviously what I'm reading, you got to come in and talk to us. We've got some historic allegations that we need to, speak to you about. According to, obviously, the news sources, which I'll put in the link, I'll put in the description, sorry, not the link. I'll put where the sources have come from, because obviously I didn't just do this for the sake of it, because I was bored. I've got a natural interest in this. But now some natural concerns. He hasn't been charged with anything. He's been allegedly released on bail. And I think this might be a follow-up to what happened to him in September when he was arrested and they took things out of his house, etc., etc. So what I'm looking at, and it's one of the questions that I've got, Noel Clarke, massive in British culture, British industry for acting, producing, talented guy. That doesn't take away the stuff that he's got mixed up in. Obviously, he's a married man as well. There's all the moral code and everything connected to what he was doing outside of his marriage. And shout out to his wife that still remains by his side and supports him, as in Deontay Wilder's words, to this day. Everything seems so quick and so calculated when it comes to him. He's often blasted and put out there in the forefront of the papers. Remember, he's been arrested, so he's under investigation but not charged. And one of the things that I've said here, and I've always said it in every single video that I've done, is you cannot presume guilt because somebody's been arrested. They're a suspect, and they're treated like a suspect, and they have to be questioned, and there has to be evidence to secure any kind of charge, to go to court, then to secure a conviction. Now remember, things came out about him before, and at that time the police says there wasn't enough evidence to charge, hence it went down the civil route with the newspapers, etc., etc. So that's where we are for him. Yeah, I'm not going to make up any excuses for what he said was like, it's banter and I didn't mean anything by it, and we live in a different time. People see things differently, and at the end of the day, I'm sure there's 1,000,001 women that could come out and say back in the 90s or 2000s or even before that, that you'd receive that kind of attention, and it was not listen, I'm not saying that it's right, I'm saying that it was, that's just men being men. I'm not saying that it's right, but I'm saying that it's a different culture, as it were, where now women speak out, they stand up, they say, no, I'm not having this, I'm not interested, I told you to back off, it's now harassment, etc., etc. So we are there. The seriousness of the allegations, to me, will always rely with the victims, because it's how they actually feel at that time, how they were made to feel. And my heart will always go out to genuine victims of any offence, because you can stand up and say, this is how I feel, and people can be quite dismissive. We see that all the time. We see it a lot around the isms of the world, sexism, racism, etc., etc. So, and then often when certain people do things, they're playing the victim card. However, when certain other people do things, there's more compassion. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to read in between the lines of those two. So that is with you. But my question is, the heat is so quickly to be put on him, but we've also had in the news, there's been several stuff that's come out about the Epstein files. Certain people have been named. There's emails, there's evidence, there's photographic evidence of offences. Now you could look at this and say it's massive, we've got to be more strategic, but then you have to ask yourself, how long have these files been around? How long has it been known what is in these files? How long have these files been protected? And when I say protected from public knowledge, or maybe not even the public, maybe as in law, jurisdiction, police, federal investigators, whatever. There was several reports yesterday that the documents that were released were heavily redacted, unnecessarily heavily redacted. And then I think there was some discrepancy about unredacting things, because basically, obviously, Epstein allegedly dead, nothing to do with anything anymore. His name's out there. But we don't care about him. He's dead now, so you don't really need to protect him. However, clearly the other parties that are in those emails are potentially part of a crime, trafficking, torture. You've seen the stuff itself. So are they redacting those names because they don't want those people, the public, to know that they're going to be going for them people, that they're going to be arresting? Because one of the things, when these things get out into public, it makes it very difficult to have, how can you put it, like a clean jury. Because everything is out there, everything you can digest. So you've already, even before you hear evidence, we've been exposed to the evidence because we've seen the emails, it's public information. So not that I'm trying to back up what they're doing, but I'm saying, have they heavily redacted some of the names of the people that have been involved because there's an ongoing investigation and they don't want to prejudice the investigation? As per usual, they say that every person is entitled to a fair trial, not making up excuses. But what has become apparent, and this is the subject of the topic, is that certain people can get away with things and other people can't. Now, as you know, the rule of law, nobody should have special privileges. Everybody should be treated the same. But as we know from evidence, from past experiences, stories, things that we've read about, that doesn't happen. It's not fair. and it's often quite unjust. And I use this because Noel Clarke was splattered in my face on the I don't follow him or anything like that, but I've seen his face absolutely everywhere, named and shamed, rearrested, sexual offences, blah blah blah. But then I'm also being inundated with lots of social media that's talking about these Epstein files, these 3 million pages, and there's still 3 million left, and there's names, and there's suggestions of horrific crimes that have been committed, hence torture. Torture's not something that I'd call banter or fun. Cold words that I'm sure there's some kind of encyclopedia of what these words actually mean. The comfortability of people writing those emails to and froing, were disclosing the horrific things that were happening. So is that the above the law attitude? Did people just think they were untouchable? And the slowness of the investigation, I get it, it's very political, but it's that one rule for one and one rule for the other that rings alarm bells with me. Because if we can go hard on Noel Clarke, we can go harder, on these people that are involved in human trafficking across the world. Because obviously that's what it's been said as. We've seen the social media of, the Department of Justice basically saying if everything is revealed, then the system will collapse. What does that tell you? It's scary. It's unsafe. It almost shows us, I say almost quite flippantly, it shows us what type of world that we're actually living in and what we're prepared to put up with and who we're prepared to be silent for, because we don't want to tread on people's toes, because we don't want to lose our job, because we don't want to endanger any potential future opportunities that may become available for us. And we sit there in silence while this harm has been going on for years. And this is just the documented stuff. You see that there's emails, but my God, can you imagine what's on the WhatsApps? What's on the text messages? I don't know back then I can't even remember if they had like Telegram or Snapchat, I can't remember. And I'm talking about the Epstein stuff now. So I'm wondering if they had all of that technology back then. I can't bother to Google to see the release dates, and I am pretty ancient now, being born in 1977, so I'm coming up to 50. So I can't remember when everything kind of switched over to the digital world, So there's all of this stuff there that hasn't been revealed. And if you think about it, your phone potentially holds a room full, whatever, average size room full, floor to ceiling of paper. If there was to print off everything in your room, the room would be packed. It'd be floor to ceiling. So when you hear about 3 million, that's the tip of the iceberg, because if they've got phones and computer devices, it's going to be potentially double, triple that amount, So yeah, it's the alternative corner. It's the topic that we're discussing today is about accountability. I've mentioned, obviously, one rule for one rule for the other. We've seen Andrew get split of all his titles now, all his titles taken off him legally. We've heard that his brother, the King, King Charles, says that he's going to support the police investigation into him. And when you look at it and you think these are the people that are you're supposed to look up to, they're supposed to be, how can I put it? They're supposed to represent the goodness or the character, and all you're seeing is just gross stuff coming out about those in power. So when you look at the comparisons, the individuals connected to Jeffrey Epstein, the files that have remained uninvestigated, there hasn't been any charges except for him and Epstein and Maxwell, who has basically said, I'll talk, but you got to give me clemency. And then there's some insinuation that I won't mention the president and the former president. I mean, what is that? What is actually that? That is like, that's corruption. And we're just sitting here absorbing it like it's okay. And that's a scary thing. We've become so desensitized. And don't get me wrong, there's a few people speaking out about it, but we've become so desensitized to what's going on out there. It's kind of like going over our head, and then you're watching, in the next breath, you're seeing a makeup tutorial, or I don't know what clothes are in fashion. Everything just carries on. So they say that there's jurisdictional complexity. Conduct spans countries, decades, legal systems, complicating evidence gathering and prosecution. That's arguable. Yes, there may be statute of limitations for certain things, but not for all of them. So I think if you gather the evidence, and we've got enough computer technology to be able to separate that evidence, to analyse that evidence, to look for common people, locations, names, types of offences that are potentially there, they should be able to question the people that have been mentioned that are involved in these offences. We've seen what's happened with Mandelson, with the Labour government, where Keir Starmer says, I didn't know, and he was like leaking information. I mean, you've got treason right there. I mean, you just literally opening your phone and it's like, I can't even say it's a Truman Show. It's just like you're just watching a movie, but it's not on the TV. It's actual real life. Fair enough, we've got deceased suspects. That's going to happen, so I understand that, but it doesn't mean you can't question the other parties that are involved that aren't deceased. Evidential thresholds, names appear, and this is another thing, and believe it or not, there would have been people that are innocent that have been on a flight, or have been to the island, but in all innocence, and that can be easily bottomed out, because you can see from the evidence that's been provided, i.e. the emails and the photographs and the videos, you can see who's really complicit, who's actually involved. So you can't think because everyone's on an aeroplane going there, you can't make that assumption that everyone going there was as part of something. So you need to have proof of specific offences, and like I said, if these people were savvy, they were going out there, but there's no like chronological or written evidence that they were involved in something. Unfortunately, the way the law works, if there is no evidence, they can't charge you with anything. It doesn't matter if you're guilty. If there's no evidence, you can't be charged, and that's the way it works. Because then a lot of people would be going to prison because we just thought it was them, and then where's the justice in that? The civil settlements, maybe. There may be stuff going, obviously, with Virginia. Is it Guthrie? Have I got her name right? I do this all the time. I'm convinced my memory's going. She was settled, wasn't she? She was paid out of court settlement, and then by some chance ended up killing herself anyway. Rest in peace. And she said she wasn't a saint. She said that she'd done bad things, because what you find with like child abuse and stuff is they get the young girls, and then the young girls don't become that attractive to them, because obviously their fetish is underage young girls. So those girls grow up almost like groomed, and they have this like Stockholm syndrome, and then they become the procurers or the groomers themselves, or they feel like they're satisfying this patriarch, this member that they're working for, that they can please him by doing all these nasty things. Psychological warfare is real, and how the mind works, how it can be manipulated, is a very, very interesting topic. It's an uncomfortable truth, and I just wanted to touch on it lightly. And it's the comparison. It highlights that there's a systemic issue. Visible domestic cases with accessible evidence tend to move faster. Transnational elite link cases often stall due to legal complexity, evidential gaps, or there's a caution around the institutions, and one for a better word, they just get favourable treatment. Let's make no bones about it. And as a citizen, you and I, or whoever else is listening into this, that disparity will always feel unjust. It just doesn't feel right, but it reflects how modern law enforcement prioritises cases that they think, okay, we can definitely get something out of this, and it's not too difficult for us, and oh, look at who's involved in that, look whose name's popped up in that, we might not want to deal with this. But the more you like put it under the bed, it just starts to stink. It's like a rotting body, and you're just not going to get away with it. You have to address it sooner rather than later, So with that said, look, like I said, Noel, unfortunately, or whatever, he's been picked up again. We'll see what happens with it, if there's, any charges that come to light. But like I said, with all respect to all victims of any kind of physical, sexual, mental abuse, I think the cases should be treated equally. I understand that some are more complex than others. I understand that when you're dealing with multinational, transnational, as they've said, transnational investigations and crimes, it's going to be more complex and it can take a lot more time, but it really does need to be taken seriously, because it's scary. So yeah, just wanted to discuss that with you. There's a lot going on, obviously everywhere, but also in boxing. I got invited to an event tomorrow in Liverpool, where it's like football stars. It's got something to do with boxing, but unfortunately commitments, I can't actually make that. And next week I'll be going to, and it's to cover media, just doing media days for the Matchroom card in Nottingham. Looking forward to that. Can't believe them pair Wood and Warrington are going at it again. I love the promo that's been done for the video. Great stuff. We got the likes of Sandy Ryan back out again. I'm looking forward to speaking to her, especially after the conversation I had with Chantal Cameron, so that's something to look out for as well. Leo Atang's back out as well. He's going in against Garber. I think Garber's last fight was Matty Harris. I think he knocked him down. Did he stop him? I can't remember. I think he did. So this yet again is another, test for Atang. They're keeping him active. It's been like, 5-6 weeks since his last opponent. So he's keeping really, really busy. So on the night, I don't think I'll be going to the event, but I will be doing a watch along. And then we've got some events coming up after that, as you know. And there's all sorts of stuff changing around boxing. I have reached out to the PR for Maurizio Sulaiman, because I do need to ask some questions, because we've got people dropping the WBC, 3 that I can think of off the top of my head, and it's almost like Zuffa's going to love this, because what they wanted to do and how they make their belt succeed, and this is going on to a whole different topic, so we're not even in the alternative corner now, we're back in boxing. You know what, I'm going to leave it there because I'll go off on a tangent, but I do want to speak to Maurizio Sulaiman. It's just getting the time slots and the dates in. Definitely going to have a chat with him. I don't think I'll ever get to speak with anyone from Zuffa Boxing. It's just not like that. It doesn't seem like it's that readily access that I've built up with boxing, traditional boxing. So we'll see what happens with that. But ladies and gentlemen, I just want you to have a think about how the systems deal with crime, how some are dealt with more favourably than others, and the impact that has on us, and how we view that, and what that does to our moral compass, and how it makes us feel as citizens. It's just something to put out there for you to, it's food for thought. There's lots of stuff going on all over the world, But I just wanted you to have a think about that. So everyone is treated as innocent until proven guilty. The court of public opinion is rife, and like I said, I do understand some of the redactions because of ongoing live investigations. Some of them I think they should have been dealt with ages ago, and I don't know why they've been sat on. And then in regards to obviously Noel Clarke, it's just like, yeah, we're just going to keep on going for him until we get him for something, because we believe he's guilty of stuff that we haven't been able to prove. So we're just going to keep on going for him. So, but we'll see. They've got to be thorough. If they've had a complaint, they've got to investigate it, because that's how it works. But just contrast both of them. Put them both there. Lay them both out on the table and just think, wow, look at the attention on that and look at the attention on the other. Anyway, I'm going to get off. Have a great day, whatever you're doing. I'll speak to you soon. And as we say at October Red, stay ready.